One Focus Radio.
Welcome to the show, it's Dyer's Daily. Keeping in the know, it's Dyer's Daily. We've got chat, we've got discussion, nice and slow, ain't no rushing, reading emails and events. Sometimes he makes no sense. It's time to start the show, it's Dyer's Daily. He'll be there in a mo, it's Dyer's Daily. We've got plays, we've got interviews, even stuff that's in the news. Local and otherwise, come and try it on for size, it's Dyer's Daily.
Hello and welcome to the Dyer's Daily podcast for Wednesday the 28th of November 2018. My name's Jamie Dyer. I'll be with you for the next 10 minutes or so talking about podcasting and content production, all that sort of thing. But before we get into it in a rather rambly way, let's have a listen to our podcast promotion of the week. Take it away. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody, listen to this right now.
When it comes to women's healthcare, too often we face limited options and doctors who just don't get it.
I feel at times that I know more than some of the providers I see.
Lady Parts is a new podcast that takes a wide view on women's health. We'll talk about the latest drugs on the market.
Something that is very low risk, but which isn't treating the disease, is just trying to reduce symptoms.
And alternative ways of understanding our bodies.
Women have more yin energy and men have more yang energy. And so that's why it's more common, like for men, to have strokes, have heart attacks. Women are more prone to stuff like fibromyalgia and autoimmune and stuff that's more deficiency related.
We'll also talk policy, where the healthcare system supports us and where it lets us down hard. Nothing is too gross.
I don't want to describe this because some people who like to eat liver might not eat liver after, but I can recall like clumps of blood clots just coming out of me.
And we'll have some fun, too. So that means women can have more sex.
You're not going to deplete your essence.
Listen to Lady Parts with me, Andrea Maraskin, coming October 21st, wherever you get your podcasts.
Dyer's Daily.
Something of a departure for today's show, and I will explain why in just a moment. But first, welcome to Wednesday's edition of Dyer's Daily. It's great to have you along. I always enjoy doing this show, and the reason it's a little bit of a departure is that you're going to get a little bit of an insight into how I record this, because let me tell you something, right? There are hundreds upon thousands upon millions of podcasters out there. I would imagine that 95% of them are either recording in their back bedroom, their front room, somewhere in their house which isn't totally treated. And the reason that I point your attention towards this is that I am very much the same. I record in my front room, sort of to the side of it, so the room isn't exactly treated. There isn't anything on the walls to stop any reflection. There is nothing around me to help with aiding it. All I do is speak directly into the microphone, got a monitor in front of me, and my mixing desk down here where I control volume of the microphone. So if I feel like it's too loud, I will adjust that. But the reason that I'm pointing your attention towards all this is that today there appears to be something going on somewhere else in the vicinity, because there's banging going on. And the reason I say this is because all this banging is going on, and people then think that you're amateur. And the thing is, most podcasts, apologies, I don't want to offend any podcasters, but most podcasts are performed and recorded in a very amateur-y situation. We're not in posh recording studios, and you know what, I like that. I like the fact that it's kind of on the level, it's down on the ground. That's one thing I like about podcasting, is that you can be absolutely anywhere. You don't have to be a guy in a posh building with thousands of pounds worth of equipment. You can literally just podcast and do it however you want. And I always say, and I used to say this as well, that sometimes it doesn't matter what you're using, it's how you use it. And I learnt this a long time ago, because you find people, whenever they walk up to me, they always go, oh yeah, but what's the best equipment for this and what's the best equipment for that? And a lot of the time it's down to what you want to use it for, and also if the idea is good, it doesn't matter what equipment you use. I mean, obviously if you're using like a really old camera type microphone that's really kind of, you know, in the muffly sense, then, you know, that's obviously not the best thing to go for. But a lot of the time I prioritize content over the quality of the equipment of which I'm using. I know we used to have this saying, and people laugh at me when I say it, but I think it's pretty much true. You can't polish a turd. However, the idea that just because it sounds bad means it's a turd. It's about what's inside it. I've listened to recordings from the 1940s that are really good for their age, but actually in the midst of time are terrible if you compare it to what we can do now. However, it's still great quality, and the content underneath it is unbelievable. You know, I can still enjoy it. The fact that it's a little bit muffled on occasion or a little bit on the dodgy side in terms of audio clarity doesn't bother me. It's about what's underneath. Because you know what? By saying, oh, it's bad quality, I won't watch it or I won't listen to it, you're sort of saying, oh no, you know, you had nothing. That's all you had at the time, but you know what, I'm going to hold that against you, which I think is a bit unfair, which is why I like to listen to podcasts, because it's sort of down on the ground, you know, that people aren't going to have posh equipment. I know I'm a member of all those podcasty groups, and they're always asking what's the best equipment, and it's like, it's whatever you want to use it for, and it's about whether you've got an idea or not. And I used to find that really difficult when I worked in radio, because all anyone ever asks you about is the latest microphone or pop shield or mixing desk. They never want to know what you want to do with it. They just want to know things to use. And I always found that really difficult to digest, because I don't listen to content or watch content for how great the picture is or how great the clarity is in terms of the production. I listen to it because I want to hear what they're saying. I want to hear the content. And I know that in recent times, I think it has been pretty much the case, because in terms of music, such as listening via hi-fi, the days of listening via an audio device like that is long gone. People now just listen on their mobiles, tablets. They often don't care about the audio quality of something. It's literally just because it's the song, you know, it's whatever it is. Which is weird, considering that you could say, well, why is it that they'll accept that in that way, but that in another way? It's all mind melding craziness, isn't it? And I am not an expert in terms of audio, but I often call myself a content creator. That's what I do. I'm not really an audio producer. I'm just a content creator, of which I create quite a lot. I come up with ideas, but as can be expected, the conditions of which I create it is not always the best. But you know what? I don't think that should be held against me or anyone else. And the reason that I say all this after this thing is because of the banging that's going on in the vicinity of the building somewhere. And I have sat here thinking about recording this podcast, thinking, I'll wait for it to stop. But you know what? Actually, I can't. You know, sometimes, especially with podcasting, a lot of it is a hobby. It's something that you do at a specific time, and you cannot wait for something. So you sort of have to go, I know there's all that banging outside, but I really need to get this done. Because I tell you what, in podcasting, you snooze, you lose. There's so much content out there now of varying quality in terms of content and production, that there's so much there to take your attention away. And I was having a chat actually about this just this morning for another podcast, and I was saying there's so much out there now that in December, content listenership for certainly the lower forms tends to dip. Because if you think about in Britain, when it's like Christmas Day and everybody's watching Top of the Pops or Doctor Who, and there's like 10 million people watching these things, the kind of thing that you get from that is there were 10 million people watching that, so they weren't listening to a podcast. You know, that's 10 million people that were occupied at that time. And the thing at Christmas is the big companies like the BBC and ITV and Channel 4 and all that, they put all the big guns out so that there is literally between 5 and 20 million people watching at the same time. So you know that the listenership of your little podcast or your little production is kind of at a minimum. You know, it's going to be at its worst. So I kind of cool it off. But I think next year, and I'm going to make a prediction because I think this could happen. I think next year is the year when podcasts in general just completely take off. I think we have got to a stage now where, as I said previously, people seem to be more open to different kinds of audio. I've actually really enjoyed doing this stuff, and I've come up with ideas and concepts for things, and I've spoken to people and they've been really positive about it, so I thank them for that. But I think next year could really see a rise because we are getting more kind of used to different varies of quality in the content, in both production and the content. Right, that's the end of Dyer's Daily for today, but thank you very much for listening. Please remember to go to your favourite podcast provider and rate, comment and subscribe on there to get the access to the latest podcasts. Please go to the website as well, www.southwavesaudio.co.uk. This is Jamie Dyer saying thank you very much for listening, and bye-bye for now. Yeah.